Welcome everyone to today's session. This is the second webinar in the series. So today is the Financial Tips for Busy People webinar, but we're talking today specifically about budgeting. Hopefully by the end of today, you're going to really understand why budgeting is important, why it doesn't need to be painful, and how it can actually transform your finances and just make things more fun as well. So I'll carry on, and I've got the questions and answers in front of me and also the chat. So if you want to put in the questions and answers, if you just put your questions in there, I'll keep an eye on them. And if they're relevant to what we're on, or maybe I just haven't explained something quite as well as I'd hoped, I'll refer to the questions and answers, and then I'll save the ones that aren't quite relevant to what we're going on about right now. I'll save those to the end. So let's get started. A little bit about me. So I'm a chartered financial advisor and I've been in the industry since the middle 2000s. I'm a fellow of the Personal Finance Society, and I set up on my own, directly authorised with the FCA company 𝗪𝗓 Wealth this time last year. So we've just gone through our first year anniversary, and I've been shortlisted for Financial Advisor of the Year for London, and won 2022 and 23, and then shortlisted as well this year, which was a huge honour in our first year of business. So this is our team. We're a growing team. Currently, we're a team of 8. Some people are from our industry, some people we've taken from other industries and trained them up to be the best that we can. But the most important thing here is that we want, as you can see by our strapline, you deserve financial freedom without the stress it takes to achieve it. So that's what we're here to do, is to make your financial lives that little bit easier. Before we start today, the most important thing is that this is really just for information only. This isn't classed as advice, but obviously advice is what we do. So if you do want to get in touch with us, then feel free. We'd love to help you. So a little recap of what we did last time. The idea of this series is that if you dedicate 4 hours in the year, throughout this year, by the end of it, you'll have a good solid financial plan that you're able to put in place yourself. Last one was the first one in the series, and we started about talking about how important it is to know what it is that you actually want. So many people bumble along with no financial plan, but it's a direction that will keep you motivated, but that will give you more of a chance at achieving your goals. Most people in the UK, sadly, aren't on track to have a good retirement, because we need a huge amount, far more than most people think, to achieve our goals. As a general rule of thumb, you're wanting to have at least 25 times the amount that you want annually in retirement, to be able to have enough for the rest of your life. So for example, if I want £10,000 a year, I'm going to need 250,000 in my pot. If I need £40,000 a year, ideally I'm going to need £1 million in the pot. But I'm going to show you how we're going to make that easy for you. We talked about how to maximise pension relief, and we talked about the power of automating, so that you do it once and then you automate it, so that your financial plan is happening in the background and working hard for you, rather than you having to be a slave to it. If anybody on this call, I know there's a small amount of you who registered who didn't do the first session, just let us know if you want a copy of it and you want all of the details of the prep and everything like that. So the most important part to take away from last session was about the automation. So as a reminder, there was a great YouTube clip there about using your phone to help automate these things. But have you, from last time, set in your diary a reminder to review your funds every 6 months that are in your pension. Review your contributions into your pensions each time that you get a pay review. So if that tends to be March, put that in the diary in March. Same for when you get a bonus. And also put in your diary when your pension and benefits window opens, so that you can be on top of it. So Today you should have all received everything you need to make your own plan. We want everyone to have done a budget planner. Don't worry, we're not going to have it live for today. I'm not going to be putting anyone on the spot either. You will have also got your assets and liabilities template, so you can see how close you are to that 25 times. I track my percentage change towards that goal each month. And then the most important thing is thinking about your financial and personal goals that we're working towards, the reason why we're having this financial plan. So my wish for today is that you learn that budgeting isn't boring but liberating. It gives your money a plan to help you work towards your goal. And finally, it prioritises the things that are important to you and hopefully makes things less stressful. So number one, why budget? So the main thing is small changes all add up. So this is an example of someone who is wasting around 50 quid a week. What could they do to put that to good use? So first one is maybe you just save it in cash because you don't have a cash buffer yet. But if you save £200 a month for 5 years and you've got 4% interest, you've got a £13,000 emergency cash buffer, which is a huge amount considering the average person in the UK has less than £1,000 in savings, and most people in the UK are only a couple of paychecks away from the breadline. So having that cash buffer is really, really important. The next one is if you put that more towards a repayment of a mortgage. This is only a small mortgage in comparison to some, but I've done a £250,000 mortgage over 25 years. With a 4% interest. If you did 200 a month, that's going to save you nearly £33,000 of interest on your mortgage, but it's also going to make you mortgage free for 5 extra years. You're going to pay your mortgage off that much earlier. Imagine how amazing that would feel, 5 years of no mortgage payments just from £200 a month. I use Martin Lewis money saving expert mortgage overpayment calculator to play around with this with clients. So that's a great tool if you just want to get motivated to do a little bit of mortgage overpayment, especially now rates are that little bit higher. And lastly, if you decided to put that towards your retirement planning and you're a high rate taxpayer, so that's someone earning between 50 and 100,000, above that you're paying 60% tax and above that 45% tax. So this is someone getting 40% tax relief. Over 20 years at 8% minus an annual management charge of 0.75% in costs, it's going to give you an extra £112,000 in your pension pot. So all of these things can be life-changing just by saving 50 quid a month, 50 quid a week, sorry. David Bark, so automatic millionaire, he always asks, what's your latte factor? So what are you spending money on that actually doesn't bring any happiness to your life, or that you could forgo without changing your lifestyle? We really want to make sure that we're not wasting any money. So every penny that you earn has got a task. Either it's something that you enjoy and it brings you fun or joy, or the other way is that it's going towards the bills that you have to pay, you're not overspending on any of them, or it's going towards your future. So yes, make sure that you go through with a fine-tooth comb all those little payments, and make sure you don't have any hidden subscriptions. I'm going to show you a little bit more on those hidden subscriptions at the moment. Thank you for your question, Jeff. I'll get through it at the end because that's quite a big question. And then the final reason why we want to budget is that most people that get in touch with us have quite big goals. They've got lots of things that they want to do. And even if those goals aren't that extravagant, most people do need more money than they think when they get to retirement. It's a reminder of that 25 times. So I've got now an example of two clients who get budgeting really, really wrong. For very, very different reasons. I've obviously changed the name, but the cash flow models that you see are actually real life, and I've anonymized them so you can't see any data. So this is an example of a man that I'm calling James. He's currently 43 and been a client with us since 2018. He's a very high earner, so in 2020 he was earning 280,000. The key problem for him is that his income is fluctuating and he loves spending. And so he's either rich or he's poor, there's no in between. In 2020-2021 he had £30,000 in cash, 200,000 in equity, 225,000 in his pension, 2 cars, £50,000 and £120,000 cars. You can see where his priorities lie. Passionate about travel, mainly as a reward for hard work. So he's busting a gut in the office, and then he's spending money on travel to relax. Loves eating out, newly married at this stage, and the wedding went on the credit card. Well, some of the wedding went on the credit card. I mean, he had about 25,000 on a credit card debt. So I started off with him with an easy plan for him, because I thought big changes are going to be too scary for him in a run a mile. It's like me when I started January fitness campaign. So we said from his monthly disposable income, we were going to set 1,666 a month into a stocks and shares ISA. And that's because that adds up to the limit. We were going to save all of his bonus because he didn't need it, and we were going to accrue this in cash and investments. We're going to increase his pension at work, set up insurance as 𝗪𝗘, and the target over the coming years was to get £100,000 in cash and to sell the expensive car. Fast forward to this year. He's earning almost 400,000. His savings have reduced by 25,000. His investment ISA is 15,000, and his pensions are around 250. So moderate increase in the pensions. If he'd have kept with the plan, he'd have over 100,000 just have paid in, let alone any growth into the ISA. But obviously he's withdrawing from it every now and again, where in those months where he's feeling poor, and he's not stuck to the cash plan. So when he first joined, this is the cash flow that I did for him. So he was 38 at the time. And to achieve his goals, which were less than they are now, he needed £25,000 a year of savings to achieve his goal, which was well within his reach. What's happened in the interim, well, in the years since, is that he's got lifestyle creep, I suppose. Everything is more expensive, everything is more fancy. The holidays are bigger because he's earning more and feels he needs the reward. And the problem is, he's that little bit older, his plan's that little bit bigger, but now we need £120,000 a year to achieve his goals. So the last 5 years, 6 years that we've wasted has cost him dearly. It's the opportunity cost of not doing the right thing for those last 5 years, and getting the investment starting to work on his side, but also the fact that his lifestyle has changed and his expectations are now higher. So this is definitely an example. Fortunately, we don't see it too much, but it's something we definitely battle against with some clients. Another extreme, but this is something we see a huge amount, and I also see this a huge amount in people that get in touch just before retirement because they really need help with this. So this is an example of a lady that we're calling Helen, who joined us in 2010, age 50, and at that time she was on track to retire at 55 with around £6,000 per month net, so ample, more than she needed, and she was enjoying work. And her motivation to keep on working was that it was really important to her that when she retired, she was now going to go into this spending mode and spend lots on long haul travel and expensive travel. That was going to be her thing. However, in the meantime, she's still living frugally and always has done, which is why she's such a good saver. Her other main criteria for retirement has always been that private medical insurance, which obviously gets very expensive in retirement. She wanted to have the confidence that she could always afford to have that throughout her life for her and her partner. 2025, she turned 55. She's on track to retire. I was willing her to retire, but she kept on working. Not enjoying the role so much, but just a little bit nervous about retiring, really, and wanted to accrue more money. She's still living frugally, but her partner did retire at 55. So now this is one thing to think about in your relationship. Are you both going to retire at the same point? If so, what's that person going to do? Wait for you to come home all day and get your tea on the table. And that's what this happened in this relationship. We're now in 2025. Helen's now 65 and she's retiring. She's no longer got the desire for long haul travel. It's no longer important to her. They've already sufficiently given money over the years to family and also to friends, actually. But they're still living frugally. They can't get out of the habit and into that spending mode that we would expect. And as a consequence of working longer, not spending enough, we've got a huge excess. And this is a snapshot of this client's cash flow model, where we project forward, so they're still spending at the rate that we want them to spend at, which is higher than they are. By the time that they get to 100, this is inflation proofed. In today's money, there's still 5.8 million in the pot. And to get rid of this, they're going to need to spend at the bottom £300,000 a year to get rid of this shortfall. So these two examples are really two extreme examples that, well, the first one we see sometimes, this one we see a lot, where we've got to good budgeting can actually give the clients confidence to spend well and retire early so that they can enjoy their money that they've worked so hard for. So how to fail at budgeting. So the first one is it's too restrictive. It's not flexible, so it doesn't change within the months where maybe you're spending more or you're spending less, and it's outdated. So the numbers that you're working on just are really irrelevant. So I'm just going to give everyone a minute, and literally just a minute, because I have 50 slides for an hour's presentation. If you could have a think about what do you actually want to spend your money on, what brings you joy and happiness, and what do you love? But yeah, I'll just be quiet for a minute. Okay. And this is something to come back to if you can as well. So then the next thing, I wanted to set everybody a challenge, just to do a 90-day look back. So you look back at the last 90 days of what you've been spending. So you want to download all your statements, credit cards, and every bank statement that you have for different accounts. And you want to analyse the results with no shame or any pressure. Maybe you're underspending, maybe you're overspending. And then start to think about what habits or what rules could you create that could then lead to habits that are going to make this all really easy. So sometimes we see that clients are overspending on the little things like the lunches, the taxis, an expensive social life, but perhaps that doesn't align with their goals of really wanting to spend more time on holiday and more time abroad. But have a look at that. And you want to then look at what, from your statements, you can often download them as Excel spreadsheets, and you want to categorise them into essential, i.e. you have to have it, your gas and electricity. And of these essential ones, you want to look at which one of those could I renegotiate, and maybe allocate a section of bills to each month so that you're sort of chunking it down into manageable amounts to manage. And then the next one is nice to have. So you'd really like to have it if you can afford it. And then the last one is it's not needed at all. And I still would argue that you could renegotiate the nice to haves as well. So how to budget well. So the first one is to talk to everyone involved so that you're all on the same page. If you're living with somebody or you've got kids, so that everyone knows what you're doing and why. Don't financially starve yourself. So don't go to such a huge extreme. Review and refine. So this is something that you're going to want to spend just 10 to 15 minutes a month on, but keeping track of it and reviewing what you're spending and what you need to reallocate. Start with things that are achievable. So if you're in the overspending category, can you do it so that you only spend on Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, for example? Or if you're under spending, can you set yourself a goal for maybe making some gifts, or maybe booking some holidays, or well, whatever it is that's on your mind. You can tell holidays are my motivator. And then look at your money habits. For me, I know if money is in my account, I'm going to spend it. So I always have to put this out of sight, out of mind. So my money goes out the day that I pay myself, and then what's left is what I know I can spend without worrying. And I'm going to show you that visually in a minute. But who else can you be accountable to? So could you do this with a friend, with a partner, to keep each other on track? And lastly, it's really, really important to automate. So it's actually harder to do, it's harder to be bad with your money than it is to be good, is the power of automation. So reoccurring theme to today. And then reoccurring payments. So it's really quite easy to clear outstanding orders and direct debits. Just log into your bank account and you can cancel them. But don't forget about these reoccurring card payments. So they are CPAs, the Continuous Payment Authority. Examples that I found are here, starting with the AA and Amazon, going down to Spotify and Virgin Active. These are ones where you can't just cancel it via direct debit on your bank account. You've actually got to log into their website and cancel it that way. It's just a bit harder and it's tricky to spot. So you need to go through your bank statements, credit cards, sometimes on your Apple Pay or your PayPal, these things can be hidden in, but just get a check-in on all of those to see that you're not paying for anything that you don't want to be. And also I read that the Financial Conduct Authority has stated banks must cancel these CPAs when asked, as a hint as well, if you can't. So this is how I plan my money. So some of you will already have seen this slide, but I think it's a good reminder. So the money goes into the money in account each month, or however often you get paid. And you want to decide, if you're in a relationship, you want to predetermine the rules with your partner and decide who and how much is paying into the bills account. So these are the monthly bills that are predictable, and setting aside money for food, childcare, dog walkers, whatever it may be, the things that happen every month need to go into this bills account. And then you need this ad hoc bills account. And I'm going to go into this in more detail, but this is for the stuff that doesn't occur on a monthly basis and can often trip up people's budget. Some people call it sinking funds as well. And then in the middle at the bottom, we've got the three things where you're doing your saving for future you. Cash pot one, we want all people to have a decent cash fund. And I'm going to talk you through that in today's session about how much that should be. Next is obviously your retirement pot, so making sure you're paying in enough to maximise the pension contribution and the tax relief that we spoke about in the last session. And then lastly, investment pot. So this could be your ISA, a general investment account, money that we're saving for the medium term, but also can be a backup for your long term as well. So on a monthly basis, you want to look at, well, what have I allocated money to? So for example, food, I've said I'm going to spend £700 a month, but the reality is I'm actually spending 800. So there's £100 difference. Now, did I overspend, or was my budget wrong in the first place, is what you want to analyse. And if it's wrong, maybe you just want to increase it, but decrease in your areas, in other areas. So maybe your social fund, or maybe the amount that you're paying into your holiday budget. But you want to do this every month, and done right, it really should take you sort of 10-15 minutes to make sure you can track where you're spending your money. And I think it just gets easier and easier every month as well. A lot of you are probably already doing that. Now this is how to do this budgeting well with an irregular income. So the problem that James had in the first scenario. So the key to this is having the right amount of cash savings that you can see in this top right. Because if the money's not coming in, let's say you need £3,500 a month to come in every month, but on low months from work, maybe you're only getting 3, you need to top up into from your savings account by 500 so that this whole system can automatically happen. You mustn't forget though that then in the good months, you need to top back up the cash savings. So it's there to plug in from, that's not the right word, is it? But top up from in the leaner months. So this is a great way for people if you're self-employed. I do remember in my 20s when I was self-employed and thinking, I just wish I could get there. But eventually I did by continually trying to save. So it's tricky, but it's doable. Then the next thing we need to do is set up a system. So firstly, you need to renegotiate everything. So write a list of all the bills we paid for, which you've probably done in that essential and nice to have section. And then assign a couple of them per month to renegotiate, and really renegotiate hard. Most of the time to get the best deals, you're needing to go to the disconnection service part of the company. That's where you can get the best deals. And if you're a bit nervous on the phone, you don't like haggling, Money Saving Expert has some great scripts on there of what to say and how to do it in a polite way to get the best deal. For example, Amazon isn't always the cheapest place to buy things from. I know that I had until recently really got in the habit of, oh, I'll just order it from Amazon. And I'm sure my neighbours were judging me on the amount of Amazon parcels that were coming. But there's a great blog by a guy called Andy Cash who actually challenged me to save money on a monthly basis. And I did actually, I think in that session with him, it might have been £500 or £600 a year I was actually able to cut back on. As a tiny mini protest to America, I've decided I'm cutting all Amazon, because I know that I do just spend too easily from it. But also I was using it for quite handy things, like, for example, automating the purchase of all our cat food, for example. But I did manage to find a UK company based in Nottingham who were doing the same cat food for a cheaper price and would deliver it automatically as well. So again, it's not always the cheapest price, so do shop around for everything. And then redirect the savings into your financial plan. So I saved recently, I can't remember what I did now. I did it on my Instagram, but I saved £12 a month on something, can't remember what it was now. But I just redirected that £6 each to my kids' 𝗙𝗍s, for example. So if you don't give it a purpose, it will just get lost in the day-to-day spending. So do reallocate. Hopefully my kids will thank me for it as well. So with this plan, to make sure that it works, like, how are you going to do it? Like, are you a spreadsheet person? Are you going to need to download an app? Are you going to need to set a specific time and date with your partner and do it together? So who's going to do it together or do it on your own, and when are you going to do it? So for me, it's the first working day of the month. I sit down, it takes me about half an hour, and I do my personal incomes and outgoings and assets and debts, and I track them. And I wouldn't say it's a task that I look forward to, but it's a task I look forward to having done, and being able to look back over the numbers really keeps me motivated. And yeah, I think now it takes me half an hour or so. And my husband, who's a bit reluctant in any of these things, I always drag him in and make him at least look at that spreadsheet and know where it is, so he knows what track we're on. And then how to plan for irregular expenses. So the parties, the one-offs, the weekends away that come up that you don't want to say no to. So it's all about making sure this ad hoc bills account is really, really well organised and you've predicted, so you set a budget of how much you'd like to spend on certain things, so you know whether you can say yes or you need to say no. So these are examples of things that catch me out: after school clubs, hobbies for the kids, school uniform, maybe school fees as well if you're paying them, holidays. It's been a reoccurring theme. I do love spending my money on holidays, and even just weekends away as well. I like to plan those. I always like to have something to look forward to. So really getting a grip on whatever is your key expenditure. I think that's really important. Birthdays, Christmases, celebrations, annual insurances, dentists, health appointments, opticians, car things. These are all things that you could be really, really detailed and set up a sub account in your bank account for each one of these. I cluster mine like this. I actually have 5, but one for holidays, termly, and then others. So I have birthdays and Christmas, and then I have, well, the insurance-y type things and car things, so the more boring things in one account as well. And then I have a secret one that I love, which I do £50 a month into a fun account. And this usually is one that comes out when we're on holiday and we want to do something that's a bit more expensive. Like, for example, last summer holiday, I don't know why I did this. It was actually more scary than I thought, but we swam with giant whale. And that was quite an expensive thing. So I just took it out the fun budget money. And that felt extra special to be able to do it. So whatever makes you happy, but put some time into thinking about how these can work for you. And this is how you want to get organised with it. So what is it, how much, how often, and then which account of your sub accounts are you going to pay it into? I know a lot of people do say, oh, my bank doesn't do these sub accounts, but I know Lloyds do, and then I think Revolut do. If anyone has any accounts that they know you can definitely do it in, it'd be lovely if you could just put it in the chat, even if it's just to me, and I'll give everyone the list at the end. And then cash buffers. So how much should you have in cash? And some people either come to us with too little or have too much in cash. And so this is the bit I want to get right. So for most people, 12 to 6 months worth of cash is about right. So if you're spending £5,000 a month, let's say, to keep the maths easy, you're going to want between £3,000 and £6,000 in cash at all times. You also want to look forward for the next 5 years and think, are there any things that I'm going to spend in cash that I need to start working towards? And that should form part of your cash buffer. And sorry, I just said 3 to 6. I meant 30 to 60,000 in cash. If you're retired, and this usually blows people's minds, but we try for clients to get between 2 and 3 years worth of cash. If they're a very, very cautious person in the lead up to retirement, we might even go as high as 5 years, but that's quite extreme. But it's to prevent against periods like we're going through exactly right now, because if you're a nervous spender and markets fall a lot, then you're not going to want to spend the money that you've got in your investments that's fallen. So the cash buffer creates that stability there for you, so you can continue to spend. So as long as markets recover in the next 3 to 5 years, then you're safe. You also need to review your savings rates. At the moment, we're seeing sort of 4%. I saw an easy access account for a client, 4.17 this morning. If you're saving up monthly for things, you can always use regular savings accounts. So some of them will say, if you put in £100, I know Coventry often say £500 a month, and they'll give you top rates, so maybe 5 or 6% at the moment. Yeah, and someone's also said First Direct as well, do that. So I'll just go through the list. So lots of people have kindly said things, but First Direct, Chase, Starling, Monzo tend to be the top ones people are saying as well. But yeah, I can do it in Lloyds as well. Okay, thanks for everyone. So if we just spend a moment to say, what do you think is the biggest takeaway that you've come away with today, and what are you going to do about it, I think is the most important thing. If any clients or future clients want to message us, Natalie's monitoring the chat as we go, but if you want to put your challenge to yourself in there, we can hold you accountable as well. But write down what you think your biggest takeaway is, maybe 3. And then our next session, and then we'll go to questions when I finish these last couple, but our next session is going to be the 1st of July, and we're talking about getting organised. So the 15-minute monthly maintenance sessions that you're going to need to do every month to stay on top of things. The monthly task list, so how to actually plan for success. So these little small chunks of jobs that you can do that allow then this plan to really stay on track. What to keep and where and for how long is really, really important. And then bigger picture money tips and legacy planning we're going to cover, as well as just some great reads if you're wanting to learn more about money and get money confident that you can do. And I'm going to be joined by a lovely lady who actually I think I saw in the chat called Sarah, who's going to help me with this. And I hope I get the pronunciation right. She's actually trained by Marie Kondo. So I don't think you get more organised than that. So yeah, it's going to be a great session. So put that in your diary already. Lunchtime again on the 1st of July. And then how can I help? So the whole point of this is that we really just want people to get financially savvy. So you can follow me on Instagram. I try to do sessions as much as little videos as often as I can with some tips. The idea being if you just learn a little thing every other day or so, that's going to really, really build up over the year. You can sign up to our fortnightly newsletter either on misslolly.com or the 𝗪𝗃H Wealth website. Or you could also book a financial diagnosis session, and they're just an hour session where we build these cash flow models that you've seen throughout today for you. Whether you want to become a client ongoing or not, it doesn't matter. We just would love to help. They cost between $350 and $500, and at the end of it, you're going to know these things. So what you need to do every year to achieve your goal. So in this example, this person would achieve their goal if they saved $8,786. You know the investment returns that you need to get for your investment goals for your goals to be met by your investment. So here it's 7.45. So this person after the session will be able to go away and have a look at what's their work pension performing at after costs and charges, and is it achieving it, for example. Know what you're on track for already. So this person is on track for 23,000 a year. That might be all right, that might be not all right. And what they need is a lump sum. So they need to make themselves nearly £100,000 better off to get on track. So we love doing those, and I think they're very helpful. And then the final one in the masterclasses that we're doing is an investment session. I'm going to talk all about the different types of investing. I'm going to make it really easy, all the difference between active investing and passive investing, how to invest rather than gamble. I think a lot of people are getting caught out in these volatile markets. Also how to tax plan, because your investments go well, you could be paying a lot of tax as you go. I'm going to cover as well what to do if you get a windfall. I think before doing this job I'd have thought, what could go wrong if you got a windfall? But actually it can be quite a crazy time when people get windfalls. They just freeze or freak out and don't really know what to do with it. So I'm going to show you some top tips there, and then I'm going to talk you through top mistakes that I see and how to avoid them. So the idea being, by the end of the year you're going to know how to invest, you're going to be organized, you've got a budget in place, you're monitoring your assets and your liabilities, and you're doing it well. So let's go to the questions. We often get quite a lot, but we've only got one right now. So feel free to put them in either in the webinar or the question section now. And I'll just read this one out. I won't mention surnames either. So this is the man who says, I'm 50, I pay £400 into stocks and shares ISA and 400 into a SIP monthly, plus my 6% contribution at work, which the company match. I'll get a final salary pension from my old work, which predicts to pay me 8,000 a year from 60. That's good. That's paying early. And I'm thinking of paying off my 75k mortgage next year from savings. Would I be better off paying it into my SIP instead? Plan to retire in 10 years. So I think my key thing here, so if you want to retire in 10 years, you're going to need to be mortgage free anyway. So what does that mean you have to do in overpayments every year? The downside to overpaying the mortgage is that you're potentially missing out on tax relief. So if you're a high rate taxpayer or even higher than that, I would be really, really focused on pension planning if there was a shortfall. The thing that crops to mind is if you've got 8,000 coming in from final salary, plus you've got maybe 12,000 coming in from the state pension, you're already at 20,000. So you're going to be paying at least some 20% tax in retirement. So I also wouldn't neglect, like we're doing now already, stocks and shares ISA, because what's lovely is when someone's retired and we've got different taxable things to take money from. So ISAs are going to be tax-free. A general investment account is going to trigger capital gains tax, which can have its benefits. And then obviously pension is subject to income tax. So having all three. So it was a bit of a vague answer because obviously I can't give advice here, but I would want to know the cost of what amount of tax relief are you giving up to overpay the pension. And I probably would, if your mortgage is quite cheap, I would probably focus on pensions if ours have to be pushed. As long as you're doing what you were doing to be mortgage free in 10 years. Let me look, I hope that was all right, a wittery answer. Let me look at the other question. Let's see. I think these are people. Oh, lots of people telling me what their tasks are going to be and what they came up with. I need to pay more into my pension. Love it. Oh, Natalie is being very good. She's also telling me that on the 30th of April, this is good for Jeff, that we've got a podcast coming out with a mortgage expert called James Witt, where we talk about mortgage overpayment on that one as well. And then on the 14th of May, we've got an investment session with an impact investing company. So people who are trying to do good as well as investing for people's pockets. So that's out on the 14th. Someone's asked, everyone focuses on maxing out and building pension. What are some things to consider when going to retirement and you take the money out? So this is a great question. So, you know, my example, I keep nearly saying the first example's real name, James, as we're calling him. One of the main bothers that we've got now with him is because his earnings have gone so high, he can only pay £10,000 a year into a pension, where most people could pay in £60,000 a year. So he's lost the ability to get the tax relief. So if you imagine you're going to be a very high earner in the future, getting your pension planning done early is a great thing. I would also project forward in this question, what kind of taxpayer am I going to be in retirement? So does it look like your pension is going to give you enough to be less than 50,000, for example, or above? Above, you're going to pay 40% tax. But also have a look at, well, what amount of money do I need in retirement? So let's say I need £60,000 a year in retirement. If I took all of that out of a pension, I'm going to be a 40% taxpayer in retirement. Whereas if I'd got other assets, so for example, stocks and shares ISA, I could take out of my pension up to the £50,000 mark, and then I could use my ISAs on top. Other things to consider would be, a lot of people have buy-to-let properties, so when buy-to-let properties are income taxable in retirement, obviously, and then when you stack your state pension, which is also income taxable on with your regular pension, you're paying a lot of income tax, which is why a lot of people like to diversify with ISAs and general investment accounts. So you're using your CGT allowances. Chris has asked, is there a minimum earnings threshold to become a client? So no, there's not a minimum. I'm sorry my examples were quite high, but the whole point of setting up LCH was that we wanted to help people wherever they were. So we have, if you look on our website, there's a service section, and you'll see there's something called the accelerator, where we don't charge ongoing annual fees. We just get you all set up, and that's good for anybody who's got less than 250,000 in the pot. But also, as you saw from the first example, you could be earning loads but not be worth a great deal compared to your earnings. We've got some very low earners who've got huge amounts of us. So yeah, everybody's welcome. The next question is, I'm 10 years from retirement. I have a £250,000 mortgage and 13 years left, and £300,000 in savings so far, in pension pot. Should I focus on paying off my mortgage as my #1 priority? I think this is the same. You've got to do both, because we don't want to give up your pension tax relief, especially if you're a more than 50% earner. But I would calculate what's the minimum you need to do every year. Don't forget as well, let's say your £300,000 pension pot is going to come with a 25% tax-free lump sum. So a lot of people will use their pension lump sum to clear their mortgage if they're not going to downsize. But yeah, there's lots of moving parts. I think it's not an either or for that one. I think that's Noel who asked that question. Mortgage rate is nearly 5%. So yes, I would be focusing on both, I think, Noel, if that's not too much of a cop-out answer. And then I've recently become self-employed. Where do you suggest I go to set up a pension? There are loads of providers that sell themselves as self-employed pension people, but it doesn't need to be that way. You can just set up a pension with anyone and set up an individual pension. There's a lovely lady, I've forgotten her name, who's set up, she's a real tech wizard, and she set up a website called 𝗕𝗵𝗿, mainly because she was deciding the same thing for herself. Which pension should she have? So that might be a good place to start. I know Times, Money Mentor also has a comparison, but I'd just be wary of going, you want something that is reasonably cheap, but what's most important is that it gives you access to good investments, I think, as well. Let's have a look at the next one. I am 58 and contribute 13% to my pension, so that it reduces you below the high rate tax. It's a tip you got from me a few years ago, so thank you. Well, I'm glad you did it. I've also used this facility for rental income I received. Yeah, that's a really good point. So if this lady's saying she earns 58, she gets some rental income, and she adds all of those and puts any excess above 50 into her pension. I love that you did that, and actually I really do recognise your name as well. So thank you. I've got a couple more here. So a lovely client is asking, if you had a child coming up to 18, going to uni, what top budgeting tip would you give them? #1 would be don't act like I did. Top budgeting tip. I think it's about really understanding what's going in and what's going out. My saving grace when I was at uni is I always worked hard. Well, had bar jobs, but worked really hard in the holidays. But I always felt I was on the back foot. So I was always working in the holidays to pay off the debt that I'd accumulated in the term before. So I really wish that I'd gone to uni with enough money, that meant I wouldn't go overdrawn by the time it came to Christmas and to be working again. That would be my top tip. And then lastly, I've recently become self-employed. Where do you suggest I go to set up a pension? So some of your current pensions that you've got, they may allow you to keep them, but so from old employers, and allow you to just take up personal contributions inside them. So I'd ring up all your current pension providers and find out if you can do personal contributions, and then you don't need to set up something new, because the benefit of a workplace pension is that they do tend to be really, really cheap. And then I would just look at all of the things that I just mentioned earlier as well. I think we're nearly there for questions. Oh, last one. So pensions investments in general are hard hit currently by US market uncertainty. How to ride this scary time, especially if within 5 years to retirement. So I think the thing that you can do in your favour is building up towards that 3 to 5 years worth of cash, if you won't be getting that already. Well, let's say 2 to 3 years. Let's say 3 years is my preference. I think 5 is too long, really, but it depends if you're cautious. So I think in the next 5 years, building up a decent cash buffer, because let's say markets are really volatile till Trump leaves power, then you're going to have built up your own personal cash. So you're buying yourself more time, so until year maybe 6 and 7, for example. You might want, if you're very US heavy, which sounds like you may be, if you're very US heavy, maybe with the money that you're going to save for the next 5 years, maybe you are a bit more diverse in the way that you invest. But what you want to do going into retirement is you want to have a bucket strategy. So you want this 1 to 3 years worth of money in cash. Then you want to have your medium-term pot, which is going to fill up your cash. When markets are behaving well, you just top up automatically. When markets aren't behaving well, you're obviously spending down your cash. When they recover, you take a lump sum and top up. So maybe the next 5 years, if you've just got everything really high risk, maybe you're focusing on your cash and your medium-term buffer. And then you have your long-term buffer, which fills up your medium-term, which then fills up the cash. So visually, that's probably better explained than I did just then. Oh, one last question. I've moved a big chunk of my money out of my workplace pension. Am I able to move it back in? I'm not overly happy with the place I moved it to. Usually you can just ring them and ask them. Yeah, often they're all right with it. So yeah, I would just check the terms and conditions, the pension, and then and if they won't, it will be then down to analysing, is there a problem with the actual pension, or is it just a problem with the fund that you've picked? If it's a problem with the actual pension, typical things could be that it's a bit too expensive, or that it doesn't give you access to lots of funds. And obviously a problem with the investment could be that it just doesn't suit you, or it hasn't performed well, or that's expensive. But sometimes you can just switch into something more appropriate within the existing pension if you want to as well. So I think that probably concludes today. So honestly, thank you so much for everyone coming. When we set these up, I never believed that this many people would join a budgeting session at lunch, and well, we had almost 200 sign up, so that was brilliant. And if anyone's watching this on the recording and has got questions, then obviously let us know. But it was lovely, and thank you very much for coming.